In a world marked by conformity and external validation, the concept of self-reliance, as articulated by Ralph Waldo Emerson in his essay Self-Reliance, offers a timeless and compelling philosophy for living authentically. Emerson's work challenges individuals to trust their own instincts, embrace nonconformity, and cultivate a deep sense of self-trust. The purpose of this video is to illuminate the transformative power of authenticity and self-discovery in shaping the human experience by exploring Emerson's principles of self-reliance. Emerson's call to self-reliance resonates with a fundamental truth, that each individual possesses an inherent wisdom and power within themselves. This inner reservoir of strength, Emerson argues, is the source of true authenticity and fulfillment. However, he observes that societal pressures and external influences often obscure this inner truth, leading individuals to seek validation and value outside of themselves. At the heart of Emerson's philosophy is the idea that true power comes from within, while weakness arises from the reliance on external sources for validation and guidance. By trusting their own instincts and embracing their unique perspective, individuals can reclaim their autonomy and forge a path that is aligned with their deepest values and aspirations. In today's world, societal norms often dictate the path we should follow and the goals we should pursue. However, this can lead to a disconnect from our true selves, as we adopt false desires and objectives imposed upon us by external influences. This conformity to societal expectations can cause us to lose touch with our own identity. True self-reliance involves reclaiming ownership of our lives and finding meaning from within. It's about discovering our values and aspirations independently rather than blindly adhering to the expectations of others. When we embrace self-reliance, we no longer seek validation from external sources. Instead, we become the architects of our own fulfillment. Too often, we find ourselves chasing the same dreams as everyone else, seeking validation from acquaintances, and conforming to societal norms in a bid for acceptance. But to truly embody self-reliance, we must break free from the shackles of societal approval. Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members. The virtue in most request is conformity. Self-reliance is its aversion. The primary obstacle hindering most individuals from achieving self-reliance is fear. Since childhood, we've been conditioned to conform, to prioritize harmony over individuality, seeking acceptance at every turn. To embark on the journey towards self-reliance, the first crucial step is conquering our fears. Ralph Waldo Emerson urges us to view our lives as ongoing projects, constantly evolving and shaping our characters. Conformity, he warns, estranges us from our inner selves, obstructing the process of crafting our unique identities. For many, our character and life represent the pinnacle of achievement, our magnum opus. They are the canvases upon which we paint our existence, our greatest masterpieces. True failure lies not in pursuing our authentic paths, but in succumbing to imitation and self-betrayal. We mustn't tether our self-worth to societal expectations or the actions of others. Instead, we must forge our own paths, guided by our inner compasses, and redefine what is truly valuable and acceptable in our own lives. According to Emerson, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. There is no spiritual nourishment that can come to us except from the toil on that ground which is ours to till. It requires courage to stand before the crowd, to go against tradition. For nonconformity, the world whips you with its displeasure. We must train ourselves to recognize the disapproving glares of those who resent boldness and independence. Onlookers will cast judgment, branding you as a societal menace, a presumptuous individual who believes themselves superior, a threat to the common good. Ralph Waldo Emerson astutely observes that these sour expressions, like their sweet counterparts, lack genuine conviction. They are merely worn as fleeting masks, swayed by the winds of public opinion and influence of the media. But this rule of independence in actual and intellectual life serves as the dividing line between mediocrity and greatness. The easy thing in the world is to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. The fear that often holds us back from trusting our instincts is the need to maintain consistency. We dread the idea of disappointing others, who can only perceive us through the lens of our past selves. Yet if we aspire to self-improvement, we must confront this fear of contradicting our former selves and risking disapproval from others. As the Yaqui Indian from Carlos Castaneda's book, Journey to Eastland, said, "If you have no personal history, no explanations are needed. Nobody is angry or disillusioned with your acts. And above all, no one pins you down with their thoughts. It is best to erase all personal history, because that makes us free from the encumbering thoughts of other people." True spiritual advancement demands that we break free from old habits and thought patterns, even if it unsettles those accustomed to our predictable behavior. We must shed our attachment to our past identities and the expectations tied to them. This means liberating ourselves from the constraints of personal history. According to Emerson, we drag our memory behind us like a corpse, lest we contradict what we did or said yesterday. It seems to be a rule of wisdom never to rely on your memory alone, scarcely even in acts of pure memory, but to bring the past for judgment into the thousand-eyed present, and live ever in a new day. It is the mark of folly to cling blindly to consistency, to rigidly adhere to past judgments and actions without room for growth and evolution. Such individuals stagnate in their learning and existence. The truly remarkable souls, however, don't fret over consistency, for to do so would be akin to fretting over their own shadow cast upon the wall. Instead, let your words and deeds reflect your truth in the present moment. Embrace the fluidity of thought and expression, even if it means contradicting your previous stance. Ralph Waldo Emerson reminds us that this path invites misunderstanding, but is being misunderstood truly a dire fate? After all, Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates and Copernicus and Galileo and Newton and every other pure and wise spirit that ever lived. To be great is to be misunderstood. Do not fear to be misunderstood or censured by small, mediocre, and insignificant minds. Such people are no concern to the genius. For the work of the genius always lives on, whereas the fad of the moment is quickly forgotten. Emerson encourages the individual to not concern ourselves with the fad of the moment. We should not follow the herds but forge our own paths. That is genius. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. For the great masses, they dare not make their own path through life. Instead, they must hear what they should do from others, the state, God, or some religious text. Emerson says we should not put such faith in these texts or the lives of others. We are often like children who repeat what they hear from teachers and parents, and as we grow older we painfully recollect the words they spoke, as if they were our own ideas. But if we live truly, we shall see truly. Emerson states that most people dismiss their own ideas because they come from their own imagination rather than some external authority. Emerson urges the individual to insist on yourself and never imitate. The gift you possess through self-cultivation will be authentically yours, whereas an imitation of someone else is only a half possession. He said we should trust our own intuitions and ideas more than philosophers and great thinkers, because this is what the great have always done. Where's the master who could have taught Shakespeare? Emerson posits that the eminent figures of history do not fit into societal classes. Rather, they pave the way for new sects and traditions, leaving an indelible mark on generations to come through their unparalleled originality, a quality he dubs as genius. Emerson metaphorically likens society to a relentless wave, each generation rising as a tide that sweeps over preceding norms, only to lose momentum and recede, eventually submerged beneath the crest of another wave. Despite this perpetual ebb and flow, the fundamental moral and spiritual essence of humanity remains unchanged. The artistic and cultural trappings of each era serve as mere costumes that fail to truly invigorate man. Dependence on others leads to a slavish adherence to custom and convention, instead of being one capable of creating new ways of living. The most important realization an individual can have is that they should trust themselves above all others. Children and animals follow their own instincts, and Emerson thinks this is worthy of imitation. Emerson's goal in the essay is to show average people that self-reliance is within their grasp. The qualities linked with self-reliance often fade away amidst societal conditioning, but they can be revived through conscious cultivation. According to Emerson, genuine virtue necessitates a relentless battle against anything that stifles one's sense of individuality, even if it means being labeled as morally objectionable by others. Emerson asserts that engaging in this ongoing war against the constraints of conformity is the true path to virtue. To embody the ethic of self-reliance, individuals must resist succumbing to societal pressures, refusing to conform to fleeting societal norms. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. He who would gather immortal palms must not be hindered by the name of goodness, but must explore if it be goodness. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. In solitude, we often find ourselves in tune with our innermost desires, but the moment we step into the realm of society, the collective influence tends to drown out this inner voice. Embracing nonconformity becomes pivotal in reclaiming our self-reliance. This may entail rejecting commonly accepted notions of goodness, even if it contradicts the majority's views. There exists a deeper, more authentic form of virtue beyond the consensus of respected figures or societal calls for charity. True virtue springs from an individual's intuition, rooted in their personal truth, rather than conforming to societal expectations. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche observed, "One must shed the bad taste of wanting to agree with many. Good is no longer good when one's neighbor mouths it. And how should there be a common good? The term contradicts itself. Whatever can be common always has little value. In the end, it must be as it is and always has been. Great things remain for the great, abysses for the profound, nuances and shudders for the refined, and in brief, all that is rare for the rare." Adhering to society's standards of goodness may seem effortless, just as following our own convictions does when we're alone. However, it takes true courage to remain steadfast to our own conscience amidst societal pressures. The allure of conformity is strong. It appears far simpler than challenging the status quo. Yet, yielding to conformity diminishes our strength. Emerson acknowledges that embracing nonconformity is no easy feat. He cautions that those who dare to defy societal norms must be prepared to face criticism from both the establishment and the masses. Brushing off such disapproval demands unwavering inner strength and resilience. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you someone else is the greatest accomplishment. Emerson thinks it is a tragedy how most people ignore their own ideas and intuition because they are afraid of being judged or because they lack confidence in themselves. To avoid stating one's own truth because it originated from one's own intuition or experience rather than some external authority is cowardice. What a shame it is, he says, to have a moment of intuition without sharing it, only to hear the same thought expressed later by another person. We should value those flashes of individual insight even more than those of famous writers and philosophers. It is the mature thinker who eventually realizes that originality of thought, rather than imitation, is the way to greatness. To believe your own thought, to believe what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. Many individuals mistakenly present their opinions as absolute truths, yet these convictions are often not truly their own. Instead, they are a collection of impressions imprinted upon the mind by societal influences. Lacking self-awareness, these individuals can't differentiate their own thoughts from those of the group. When they voice an opinion, they're essentially echoing collective sentiments rather than expressing genuine personal insight. Their blind allegiance to groupthink acts as a barrier to true wisdom. Emerson argues for a deep-seated trust in one's own thoughts and instincts. He encourages people to cultivate a sense of self-confidence that enables them to navigate life based on their own inner guidance. Intuition serves as a compass, guiding us toward paths that are aligned with our authentic selves and highest aspirations. By trusting our intuition, we honor our inner wisdom and acknowledge the inherent validity of our own experiences and insights. Self-discovery leads us to the source of all action, the essence of genius, of virtue, and of life which we call spontaneity or instinct. No law can be sacred to me but that of my nature. Good and bad are but names very readily transferable to that or this. The only right is what is after my constitution, the only wrong what is against it. Emerson calls this primary wisdom as intuition, which goes beyond conscious understanding and finds a common unity with all things. The wisdom that rises in our being is not separate from time, space, or collective humanity, but is one with them all and proceeds from the same source as all of life. Emerson sees all things have unity in source, but we experience them as appearances in nature, and forget that we share their cause. And here is the source of action and of thought. In nature, all things are self-reliant, except for man who has lost his true nature. He seeks strength outside himself, comfort and security, because he has lost his way. He knows not how to find these things within himself. Power is in nature the essential measure of right. Nature suffers nothing to remain in her kingdoms which cannot help itself. The genesis and maturation of a planet, its poise and orbit, the bended tree recovering itself from the strong wind, the vital resources of every animal and vegetable, are demonstrations of the self-sufficing and therefore self-relying soul. Today mankind is a mob. Man does not stand in awe of man. His energy is scattered instead of connecting himself with the eternal fountains of life. He goes out into the world to beg for nourishment from the urns of other men. In the crowded embrace of the fearful, they seek refuge, like moths drawn to a dim flame. Their proximity, a fragile illusion of safety, masks the chains they forge together. The masses huddle together, mistaking confinement for comfort, are unaware that their collective weakness binds them tighter. But the man of self-reliance knows that power is inborn, that weakness stems from looking for value outside ourselves. Thus he embraces his innate abilities and trusts his own judgment, forging his own path guided by his internal compass. Self-existence is the attribute of the individual who trusts their own instincts, embraces nonconformity, and relies on their inner wisdom rather than external validation or societal norms. Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string.